Good morning and welcome to Rising. We have a great show for you today, as always. But before we get to that, Briahna would like to say some words. Go ahead.
Thank you, Robbie. As many of you know, journalist Katie Halper was a guest host on Rising Monday before last. And as part of that role, she recorded a radar, a monologue. The radar addressed Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib's statement that progressives cannot ignore the apartheid conditions many Palestinians live under and be progressive except for Palestine. Katie's radar critiqued the backlash to Tlaib, incited a former Secretary of State, chair of Israel's left political party, Israel's former education minister, former Israeli environment minister, and others who corroborated this view that Israel is an apartheid state. The decision was subsequently made by The Hill editor-in-chief Bob Cusack not to air her radar. Katie was then told that not only would she not be asked back to host, but that she would no longer be invited to do the regular guest spots she has been participating in for about 3 years now. I strongly disagree with how Katie was treated by The Hill. It seems obvious to me from her long tenure on the show that neither the quality of her analysis nor her presentation style has ever been seriously in question up until this point. You can find her radar, which she re-recorded with Breakthrough News, an independent media channel, on their YouTube page and judge for yourself. I, for one, find it difficult to believe that despite The Hill's representations, this is merely an editorial decision as opposed to an ideological one. As a former senior politics editor at The Intercept myself, I found the quality and accuracy of Katie's radar to be unimpeachable. And I believe losing Katie's commentary is a real loss for The Hill. Over the past week, I have struggled with whether to continue co-hosting this show. Robbie and I talk about censorship and cancel culture frequently, and it feels hypocritical to talk about those subjects without applying the same scrutiny to our own show. However, I also believe strongly in this show's format. I deeply value cross-ideological discourse, and I think The Hill is one of the few corporate media spaces in which left voices are tolerated at all. The Hill has told me that the decision to end its relationship with Katie is an editorial decision about style and not ideology or substance, and that it would be happy for me to cover Israel-Palestine.
So there's a really interesting part of this. Let me go back just 5 seconds.
About style and has told me that the decision to end its relationship with Katie is an editorial decision about style and not ideology or substance.
So according to The Hill, Katie Halper was not censored and not fired because of an ideological disagreement. It had nothing to do with the contents of her radar. It was about the style. So basically they were just saying, well, sorry, you were kind of a shitty host. Like, sorry, your radar kind of sucked. It wasn't very compelling. It wasn't very interesting. Therefore, we're done here. That's what they're going with. Again, I find that pretty hard to believe, again, because of the fact that Katie Halper had been employed by The Hill for years as a guest contributor and more recently as a co-host on Rising. So I just find it odd that maybe the radar was just really poorly recorded. You know, maybe she was like tripping over her words and like slurring her speech and just like couldn't get her fucking thoughts out. I find that hard to believe, though. You know, frankly, I do find that hard to believe that the style of the radar was so bad, that the presentation was so bad that they just fired her because of it. And we're like, this is not, we can't show this. It's so bad. I feel like that's probably not the real reason. I think it's pretty crazy to say that there's not an ideological agenda behind this decision, again, being that it is controversial to criticize Israel. But here Briahna is saying that she was told by The Hill that she can cover Israel, she can cover Palestine. They just didn't want Katie doing it because of her style.
Yeah, I think that's pretty far-fetched, and I think if anything, they've just decided that they didn't realize how much blowback that they were going to get from this, and now they're like, okay, well, you can go ahead and do this, but we're not doubling down. I actually read the original transcript. Obviously, we didn't get to see the initial recording, just the re-recording that she did at Breakthrough News, but I read the original fucking transcript. Ryan Grimm published it in The Intercept, and I read the whole thing, and I thought it was perfectly on par, and actually exceedingly more competent than some of the ragtag bullshit that they've pushed through The Hill over the on Rising, over the past like year or two since Crystal and Sagar left. There have been a lot of really great radars, but there have also just been some weird people that you shoved in here. I'm like, why am I listening to you give a fucking radar? I don't care about you, right? Katie obviously far surpassed those kinds of things. Also, yeah, she'd had a 3-year relationship with The Hill. You don't think maybe they would have had a fucking conversation where they're like, hey, your whole job is to come on here and do this thing, and we actually want you to have more of a time on now. Like before, she was just doing the weekly media kind of roasting with them. That's gone on since before Crystal and Sagar even left. And, more recently, we've seen her as an actual, host on the show. So it just seems like that doesn't make sense. Like, why would you continue to expand somebody's hosting, role? And then turn around and be like, well, it was actually your hosting style that we were. Come on, guys. We all know what the fucking truth was. They did not want her to write about this. Honestly, I think that perhaps they didn't like the optics of a Jewish woman writing in solidarity with a Palestinian, because then it makes it harder for people to brush it off as anti-Semitic. I don't know. All of it makes you feel not good. None of this makes sense, and it absolutely has all of the hallmarks of like censorship. And it wasn't just like, oh, hey, this was, your third crummy piece in a week about, mortgage rates. Like, don't really think you have a home here anymore. This was a clear example of something that they did not want articulated from, what they are viewing as a channel that's moving towards the mainstream. So yeah, completely ridiculous, but we can let Brie finish.
Voices are tolerated at all. The Hill has told me that the decision to end its relationship with Katie is an editorial decision about style and not ideology or substance, and that it would be happy for me to cover Israel, Palestine, and any other newsworthy topic as I see fit. So I've decided to put that claim to the test. I will be staying with The Hill as long as I do not experience what I believe to be ideological censorship. I will continue to cover topics as I see fit, including the ongoing apartheid conditions in Israel. And if at any point I feel like I am being censored, I will end my relationship with The Hill. I will have more to say about this decision on my own show, Bad Faith Podcast, which you can find on YouTube and wherever else you get your podcast. And I'll be also hosting an opportunity for folks to call in and comment on my call-in show, The Debrief, which you can find with the call-in app later tonight. I appreciate The Hill giving me this opportunity to voice my view on this matter.
Look, I feel similarly to you. I didn't like how this was handled at all. I've not liked how some previous things have been handled. It was really hard parting ways with Kim Iverson, who I remain very strong friends with. Look, the audience knows we've had growing pains on this show following the departure of the longtime hosts, where we've had different people trying to figure out how we all get along and fit in with our various perspectives together. The Hill got acquired by a new parent company, so there have been uncomfortable times. I'm sure we've gotten things wrong sometimes or handled things not as we should, but I love this show. The viewers of this show have been so...
He says that we've experienced some growing pains on Rising since Crystal Sagar left. It's like, actually, no, The Hill has just fucked over everyone that's ever worked for them, that's gotten them views and made their show a success. Straight up, every single person, basically, I guess, except for Robbie and Brie, has been fucked over by this company. Even though they were bringing in the views, they were growing the show. Obviously, Crystal and Sagar being the original examples, but then that happened to Kim Iverson, where she felt like she was being censored by being excluded from the Fauci interview. So she left, even though she was by far bringing in the most views out of anyone on Rising. Now they're going to fire Katie Halper without so much as warning or consulting with the other hosts, leaving them in an awkward situation. And that's the other thing about this. Even if you don't care about censorship, even if you don't actually, really care about Israel and Palestine, all that stuff, it's pretty inappropriate, in my opinion, the way the Hill handled this, because it does put the other employees in a very awkward situation. Like it has put Briahna in a very awkward situation. It has put Robbie in a very awkward situation. Two people that constantly talk about censorship and how against censorship they are. So that's also, in my opinion, just mind-boggling that they're putting their other employees in these very, very awkward situations. That's also pretty unconscionable to me. And then turning around and lying to them and saying, oh, it was just a stylistic decision. Oh, and by the way, if we censor you in the future, if you say something that we don't like, trust us, it's not going to be ideological censorship. It's only stylistic censorship. That's what we care about. Trust me. Don't worry.
Look, I mean, definitely. Look, for me, the way that I'm looking at this is like, they're a corporation. How do corporations behave? Corporations behave exactly like this, right? So I guess it's just not shocking, right? Your boss is going to fucking lie to you. They're going to tell you all kinds of horse shit. I mean, It is kind of what it is, right? They're going to do anything that's more convenient for them. They're always going to be looking out for themselves. And that's just the deal with the devil that you're making when you decide to be a host on one of these kinds of platforms. Like it wasn't a shock to any of these people that, we talked about them getting fucked, that they took a job at a corporation, right? Anybody that takes a job at a corporation, I don't care if you fucking wash cars, pour drinks, or do journalism and media for a career, right? Every time your boss is looking out for themselves and they could give two fucking shits about you. They just can't. They don't care about you. They care about dollars and cents, right? So I imagine they see the Katie Halper thing. Somebody at the exec says, oh my God, no, I'm going to get, 10,000 angry fucking letters about this. We're going to get people that are talking about how the Hill is like an anti-Semitic network and all these kinds of things. Like, I don't want that. I don't have it. Get the fuck out of here, right? Don't deal with me now. But yeah, they had absolutely no concern for the awkwardness or the, honestly, the tarnished reputation that could be imposed on their hosts who had no say in this matter, but are now associated with a network that censors people as they are out and presenting themselves as entirely vehemently anti-censorship. To give Brie some credit, I think it's commendable what she did here, coming out and firmly saying, hey, if you want me to come back out here, I'm going to say what the fuck I think about this. She addressed it clearly. She called it what it was, an apartheid. I think that to have her come out here, she seemed a little nervous about it, but she, was steadfast. She said what she needed to say about her friend and her former colleague. And I do respect that. But yeah, I just think everybody needs to understand this is the 30th reminder of whenever you're dealing with a show like Rising, you're not dealing with independent media. You are dealing with a corporate conglomerate that's interested in extracting value from ad revenue. And anything that's beneficial to the left is just a byproduct of that. That's, unintended consequences.
Loyal in uncomfortable times. I'm sure we've gotten things wrong sometimes or handled things not as we should, but I love this show. The viewers of this show have been so loyal to us, and as we try to figure things out, and they trust us. I hope that you continue to trust us to deliver unfiltered, unbiased, uncensored news. The only news show in existence right now that actually features debates and disagreements. And I think that format,
except for
like
the Vanguard,
still has value, and we're going to keep at it until they pull the plugs on this thing.
Or until, we prove the contrary case and find that it's no longer a place for this kind of conducive rather to these kind of conversations. So.
Well,
I mean, again, hasn't that already kind of happened though? Haven't we already found that out now 3 times? And again, I totally respect whatever decision Briahna makes. I will continue to watch her on The Hills Rising. I'll continue to enjoy her on The Hills Rising, but let's not act like we don't already know the situation as it is. The situation is that The Hills censorious, is that they don't want these opinions aired, whatever excuse they make up about stylistic differences or what, it's ideological censorship. Let's be honest.
Oh yeah. And not only that, we brought this up briefly the other day, but this happened to Crystal and Sagar. This was a big part of why they left in the first place, right? They had all the power in the world. They were huge stars over there. I mean, Crystal and Sagar were regularly getting over 500,000 and sometimes over 1 million views on their radars if they would go bonkers. It was crazy the kind of numbers they were doing for The Hill for a while. Insane. Bernie Sanders, 2020 era, it was just dumb crazy the kind of numbers that they were getting over there. And then, Crystal's like, hey, great, I want to do this solo venture or side project venture. Oh, well, Kyle Kalinski's persona non grata now on The Hill. Don't invite him on our show anymore. It's what the fuck? Excuse me? You've got Katie Halper getting fired because of her fucking presentation. So that's what she's best at. She's a fucking comedian. What are you talking about? Her oration and her delivery. That's just, it's nonsensical that was the reason that you fired her. That's how she's that most sought after. It's for those that hosting capability. Anyway, just ridiculous. So we know that's there too. I'm imagining, Kim Iverson, whether or not I would agree with, her censorship case, that she felt that very much the case with what happened with her. I imagine there's more shit that we don't know in the background. Shout out to you, Virtuoso. Thank you for becoming a YouTube member. Now you can unlock all of those emojis and reclaim Pepe for the left. But anyway, yeah, so it's just we know what's going to happen. But to me, that's what's kind of it's a little bit okay, the framing of all of this should just be, this is a corporation. We are going to ride till the wheels fall off. Eventually, they're going to shit can us because we pushed too far. That's how we know we did a good job. Move on. that's what it is. Use it up for what it is, and let's get it going. It's like going on Tucker Carlson. It's like, say what the fuck you have to say. Don't take the kids' gloves. Be ferocious, and then if you do it sufficiently well and you castigate the guy, or you shred his arguments or whatever, they're probably not going to have you back. But yeah, you seize the opportunity to go do that service.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I do just have to disagree with Robbie, who's like, this is the only news show where debates happen. Like, this is the only news show that's censorship free. Like, first of all, it's not censorship free. And second of all, it's not the only news show where debates happen. Come on. Like, I mean, even like, obviously independent media exists. This show has debates on it. Lots of independent news show have debates on it. But even if you talking just about corporate news, I mean, you can watch people freaking get into debates on like Real Time with Bill Maher. It happens all the freaking time. Like, there's plenty of other corporate news outlets that do technically sanctioned debate. But anyway,
trust us. I hope that you continue to trust us to deliver unfiltered, unbiased, uncensored news. The only news show in existence right now that actually features debates and disagreements. And I think that format, like you, still has value, and we're going to keep at it until they pull the plugs on this thing.
Or until, we prove the contrary case and find that it's no longer a place for this kind of conducive rather to these kind of conversations. So.
Well, we'll find out. I'm confident that's not the case, but we'll see how it goes. All right. Enough of that. Let's get.
How are you confident that's not the case when like less than 2 weeks ago, they fucking proved that in fact was literally the case? Like, how much more obvious could it possibly get other than just straight up firing a Jewish woman for accurately identifying Israel as an apartheid state? Like, what do they have to do? Kill her? Like, fucking hang her upside down and fucking thrash her with knives? Like, what the fuck do you want? Like, that is censorship. What else could possibly qualify?
Yeah, censorship has to be brutal public murder. No, I don't know. Well, but yeah, no, this is Robbie being a company man. This is what company men do. They go out there and they say, yeah, we want to get better. We want to turn around. We want to change. Just give me the opportunity to change, man.
Yeah. So again, I mean, I guess props for doing that live on air and addressing the elephant in the room. Definitely an awkward situation. Like I said, whatever they decide to do is fine. I'm not going to judge anyone regardless. It's not like if Briahna decides to stay on the Hill, I'm going to come out here and say, what a fucking shill for the establishment. Like, she sold out. Like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to say that. I respect that decision. But still, it is a little bit weird. And I do have to say that I like to think if I were in the situation, I would probably quit in solidarity, because I just don't understand. It's almost more insulting for them to say, we didn't fire her for ideological reasons. They fired her for stylistic reasons. Not only is that insulting to Brie's intelligence, thinking she'd be stupid enough to buy that, but also it's just insulting to her friend Katie Halper, saying like, oh, sorry, your host was too fucking bad at her job. Like, we just fired her because she sucked so bad and her radar was so terrible. Like, it's a style of it was just not, like, it's just so condescending. It's almost more insulting. I'd rather be censored for my ideology than my style, completely honest. Like, I would literally rather someone say, nope, you're too radical to work here, than you just suck too much to work here. Like, I would feel way more insulted by the latter.
Well, yeah, but to Brie's credit here, like, that's just not how censorship works, right? Like, it's not like somebody like typically comes out and just like they're gonna put like a veneer on it, right? Like, they always do put a veneer on it for the most part in these like mainstream. Even when Nathan Robinson was fired after publishing his, they were just like, oh, sorry, we're just not looking for this kind of we're just no longer looking to have you continue with your columns here at the Guardian. This is not related to your performance. We're just tightening the belt, right? That's what happened to him, and everybody was like, oh well, obviously this is what the fuck happened. It's not like they're gonna be like, oh, sorry, our paper is unwilling to have this well-rounded, very accurate description of what's going on. Like, of course they're gonna tell them some bullshit. That's just how fucking corporations work. Like, they always put a veneer of bullshit over it. They never just tell you what's up. Like, if they want to fire you, they're gonna, and I mean, unless they explicitly have to, like, you fucking punched a hole through the wall and they're like, okay, well, you punched a hole through the wall, you got to get out of here. They're going to be like, oh, well, hey, X, Y, and Z, like, this is what's going on. That's just how it works. Like, I mean, I heed your point that we all know that's what it is. Obviously, Brie knows that, but there's just no way, I think, in corporate media where they were ever going to like actually just spell it out like that.
I agree with that. And if they had just fired Katie Halper out of the blue for no clear reason, I would totally agree with that. But it's very clear why they fired her. It's because of this radar she did about Israel. So, like, it's obvious why they fired her. Anything else is just a clear and straight up lie. So like, yeah, obviously they're going to bullshit you, but that doesn't mean we can't call them out for obviously lying to everyone involved.
Well, I mean, obviously we did do that.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. I would feel condescended to if I was an employee of a network that said, "Oh, by the way, your co-host who happens to share your viewpoint on this subject matter, who is in tune with you ideologically, and who is also your friend, she's being fired not because she believes what you also believe, but because her style wasn't in line with that." Like, it's just so condescending, and I think it could definitely lead to self-censorship. So that's the problem I have with it. That's why I feel like it's super condescending. If they're gonna say you can't talk about this, just say you can't talk about this, and then you know what you can talk about and what you can't. But in the absence of that, it is going to create self-censorship, because now every time someone wants to talk about something that's, you know, controversial or involving Israel, they're going to be thinking in the back of their mind, "Oh fuck, like is this going too far? Do I have to step on eggshells? Do I have to reword this? Do I have to be more sensitive, et cetera, et cetera?" I just would not want to work in that kind of environment as a journalist or a commentator personally.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'm interested to see, and hear the commentary from Briahna moving forward. If she takes this as an opportunity to really twist the knife and do some fucking, real deep ass radars on what's happening in, occupied Palestine, essentially, and the atrocities being committed with U.S. taxpayer dollars, U.S. manufactured weapons, and U.S. oversight. I would love to see that, and I would love for her to take this as an opportunity to, force the Hill to do something, right? To call their bluff, to say, "Hey, fuck you. Now you're going to have to own this because you've done it twice." So, hey, maybe that's her plan. That would be something that I think would be tight and a good use of the platform to really just say, "All right, you said I could do this, then let's fucking do it. Game one, let's go." But we'll see what happens, and continue to cover it as it unfolds here at the Vanguard.